is the StoneTes handpiece. I'm going to go over a little bit about what it really looks like when you're adjusting the index on the machine. In the previous videos I talked about the faceting diagram with a little brief description using a simple brilliance. I talked about the index gear in the StoneTes faceting kit. So now let's kind of take a look at actually adjusting the index gear on the head. So quickly, let's look at the diagram for the 32, 64, and the 96 again, and let's look at point 1. So if you were using a 32 index, your first index point would be 1. If you were using a 64 index, your first index point would be 2. Finally, on the 96 index, your first index point would be 3. Now let's take a look at this adjustment and what it looks like when adjusting it right on the actual handpiece. So now we can see the index gear as it looks handpiece. Three things to know. I actually have the Allen, which is used to hold the dop in place, removed for this demonstration. The pickup pins set on the 64 index, and just for a point of reference, the index is set on zeros to start with. The Allen, which is not showed here, would be tightened before you do each cut, and then of course loosened in order to make the adjustment. Set up on the 64 index, so we'll be focusing on the middle ring, which is the 64 index. Looking at the faceting diagram for the 64 index, we see the first index point is 2. So back to the index gear, we're setting on 2 as shown by the indicator. A habit I kind of got into is by counting up from where I'm at to the next whole number. And what I mean by that is we're setting on 2, and I'm going to count up to the next whole number, which is 4. This simple little check to make sure you haven't missed index looks good. Now let's go ahead and index to the next point on the faceting diagram. So we're looking at the 64 index, and the next index number is 6. Back to the index gear. Looking at the 64 index, which is the middle ring, you can see we're setting on the index of 6. Once again, I perform my check by counting up to the next marked number. So I would count 6, 7, and 8. Once again, I do this so I can kind of alleviate any misindexing. So I'm looking at the middle index, and as you can see, we're at the next index point for the 64 diagram, which is 10. And the next index point for the 64, which is 14. And so on until you complete the rest of the index points. Well, I think that's a quick description of the StoneTes index gear and how to use it.